Hello, this is going to be a screencast on how to set up the Infinite Campus Gradebook. While there is a new gradebook available this year that has a lot of additional features, it's not imperative that you use that, and the setup for both is going to be the same, but there are a couple of slight changes that will take place there as well. So first we're going to get logged on. You see the login screen looks different than the old one. And once logged in, you can see that I have a class assigned to me here. I'm going to guinea pigs. And we're going to head over first to instruction and down to assignments. And on this page, we're just going to work left to right, beginning right with editing teacher preferences. And this screen should look familiar to you. I believe there might be a couple of changes here. For example, the website address, I don't know if that was there before or not. I've selected to show student pictures. Please note that if you check this one here, hide drop students, which makes perfect sense to do, and I'm going to do it, that if you have a student transfer out of your class and you need the grades of that student to pass on to another teacher or to another school, you'd need to come back and uncheck this box and then go to the gradebook to be able to see that student's information. But I'm going to leave it checked. I can assign it to multiple sections, and I do want it to go to all my sections, so I'm going to check all here. And I'm going to come back up here and save my teacher preferences. Now I'm going to move to the right to edit GradCalc options. This is going to be a little bit different. You'll see first of all that you don't see anything showing here other than just the standard screen and the task screen. So I click on show, and that'll let me see all the standards that have been attached to that particular course. And you see this class, I have the reading and writing standards available. Now I don't need them all because it's going to be the same. I'm going to choose the same option over here for all of them. So I'm going to hide that. And here's a pretty big change for this year. We have the ability to use some calculations now for your school-wide goals scores. And if I check on this proficiency estimate drop down, you see I have 4 options: highest score, mode of last 3 or 5, or the power law. Now the power law is really the most ideal to use. Now what it does is determines a trend based on student scores, which is what we've asked you to do manually on your own in the past, just to look at the scores. This uses a mathematical formula to come up with that score. One important thing to remember though for this is the power law works on an assumption, and that assumption is that your standards are assessed at consistent intervals. So if you give one in September, and then the second one's not till December, and another one the end of December, maybe January, power law is really not going to give you an accurate score at that point. So I'm next going to come down to my tasks. That'll look familiar if I open those up. Again, they're all going to be the same, so I'm going to come over here to calculate in progress grades. I need to select my grading scale, which is numeric for almost all classes. I am going to weight categories. This next box here is one that tends to cause a lot of people some confusion. The use score percent value. When you mark this checkbox, it's going to calculate scores based on percentage of points earned for each assignment rather than the raw point value. So for example, if you have 2 assignments and one scored is an 8 out of 10 and another one's 100 out of 100, the point value calculated for these would be 108 out of 110, or 98%. If we check this box, then the percent value calculated would be 80% for the 8 out of 10, 100% for the 100 out of 100, or a 90 grade. So you can see it makes a pretty big difference on what that score is going to be. So I'm going to hit save, return to my assignment list, and continue to the right to edit my categories. Now here you'll see that I already have 4 set up, just in the interest of time, and this will look the same as it did in the past. I have each of my categories over here, and then I have the task term score in this case that's assigned to all of them, and then I have the standards, reading and writing for some, just reading, or just writing for others. And you can make them all available for each one, and if you don't use them, you don't use them, you just ignore them on that particular assignment. But I need to add an assignment, or excuse me, a category here. I need to add my writing category. It's going to be worth 20%. Hopefully it all comes up to 100. And I still have my exclude option. I might drop the lowest score option. I'm going to assign it just to that class since it's the only class I have available right now. And I'm going to make them all available as an option. And again, the term score. Now I have two options up here. I can simply save the category, in which case it'll bring me back to the categories, or I can save and add an assignment. Since this was my last category, I'm going to do that. I've never found this to take several minutes yet. And my assignment's going to be the I'm glad to be back essay. If I could type. Now remember, an abbreviation, if it's a common assessment, it's essential that you and your colleagues all use the exact same abbreviation following the naming conventions identified in the naming common assessments document. This is not, so I'm just saying glad to be back. It's going to be a scored assignment. I could put some notes here. I have my options here that you've had in the past as well. Now if I click here, I can include a description, the objectives. I can include some references here. You see it has a link. If I select that, I can add some website links to that for students, or I can attach some resources. If I click on this button here, it'll bring me to a browse folder where I can go into my files, find the particular file I want, and save it. And you can see a maximum number of resources allowed are 3. Let's shrink that. Let's hide it. This is something new this year, and that is the ability for students to submit work through the portal. I'm going to leave none on this one. They're going to do this in class, on paper, the old-fashioned way. I could enable student submission where they do submit it to me through campus, or I can enable even an online assessment where they take the assessment online, similar to Global Classroom, because now I have the scores directly in this gradebook. This would take too much time to explain here. For those who would like to use these features, there'll be information to help you with that as well. Now I'm going to continue down. If you remember, I made them all available back when I set up this category, but in this case, there's not going to be any reading involved, so we're going to get rid of those. We're going to leave the writing ones, and it is going to be a term score grade going to the writing assignment category. Now I could just save it, save and create another assignment, or save it and score it. I'm going to save it and score it. And wait till you see this impressive group of students I have sitting in this class. So impressive that on this first essay, they were almost all proficient. We did have a couple of issues here. Now I'm not going to fill all the term score because their 100-point grade score, because they were kind of all over the place. But I'm going to fill all here. But I did have a couple of problems. Well, first of all, he is definitely a rock star when it comes to his writing. So we're going to change those all to a 4. Wannabe was pretty well, except struggled a little bit with her grammar. Swinging and a grooving, I think he's been doing a little too much swinging and a grooving, perhaps while too much sticking clams in the hot sun of the Cape. His organization was really all over the place. I don't think there were enough sticky notes available to work on this essay. Amarada was all over the place there a little bit, and Let It Snow, perhaps a little too much time on the slopes this past winter. Not quite where we know that she's going to be. And so I've made the changes that I want to make there. Now to enter the term score, enter the score. Whoops, no, that's not the right score for him. I hit return, or excuse me, enter, it brings me down to the next student. If I hit tab, it would bring me across to the right. And we'll quickly enter these in. Sorry, Mr. Groovin. We'll work on that though. Have the same options over here, and if we had done a student submission, we would have information on that there. And again, I'm not going to spend time talking about that at this time. Be sure you save it, or save and create another assignment. We're going to just save it here. And now we're going to go to the gradebook, and you'll see this is going to look quite a bit different. This is the new gradebook, and let's start on the term score. You see here's the in-progress grade. You're going to see the same information you saw before. Now, again, we'll work left to right. If I click on settings, you see I have some options here. Which students I want to see. So I want the sparkline graph, and that can be See the question mark that came up here? This is also a nice new feature. Anytime you see that, when you hover over something, click on it. It'll explain what a sparkline graph is and how you can use that, as well as some navigation shortcuts. I do want that on. I do want the color coding for grades and for scores on as well. And I do want the save alert for sure. And so we're going to close my settings box. Now continuing to the right, if I select this one here, it's going to bring me just the assignment that I'm working on at this time. If I click on it, it expands back to everything, or excuse me, all assignments, I guess, would show up here. So we'll expand it to all of them. Posting, again, these scores won't appear until it's time to post at the end of the marking period. And you can see we have the score for all of our students. Again, at this point, I can select a particular student, get more information on them. I can make some comments that will appear on the portal when they look at the gradebook there. You can see there's some box and whisker graphs here. Again, you see the question mark appeared, so if I click on it, it'll explain to me how to read the box and whisker diagram. And you can see, as we're looking at that Mr. Rockstar is definitely doing quite well in this particular area. And we click above his name, and that closes him up. And same now, move down to wannabe. Now, the next step we want to do is we want to move to one of the standards. So we're going to go to organization. Now you notice there's another, you see these little codes here. These are, you see if I hover over it, it says it's a sparkline proficiency graph. I'm going to open up the scores here. Now, Gonna-be is green because he is meeting the standard. It looks like just he and Wana are the only ones meeting the standard right now. The other three, a little work to do with them. And you also note that over here, the proficiency estimate is NA at this point. And I'll show you that in just a minute. I'm going to close that up. Whoops, I sorted it. All right, from the screen, I could also enter my grades just like you have in the past. I come over here and expand that, and you can see I have the same screen that you saw back previous on the assignments page. I can click here, fill score comments, and do the same thing that I did back on the assignments page, but I can do it from here instead, and I have my same options available here as well. I'm going to close that because what I want to do here is I want to add another assignment. So I can do that on this screen, and you see it opens up the assignment right away. We're going to just quickly call this Essay 2. And in this case, we're just going to focus on grammar and organization, and that's going to be it on this one. We're going to save that, and now I can come in here, enter each score individually. Most of them again were 3. So I'm going to fill all. Now you notice as soon as I did that, now we have a proficiency estimate. So you can see based on their previous scores, the power law has determined where these students currently are. And if you hover over them, you see it gives you information on the particular student. Power law is underlined because that's the one that this is being calculated on. And you can see it lists Gonna-be scores there. And again, I could make comments and do whatever I did back on the other screen as well. Now if I go back to Gradebook, I need to save. Gradebook has been saved because I turned that option on because I know I need it. If I select on Gradebook, you can see it's going to take a while because we need to load Java again. If you notice in the beta Gradebook, Java didn't load, and you also notice the font size was quite a bit larger, and that's something I know a number of people really complained about with the Gradebook in Java. Because it's a Java application, there's nothing you can do unless you change your computer resolution, and it just messed up your whole screen. But if you want to come back to the old Gradebook that you're familiar with, it's still here and it will look the same as it always did. You see it defaulted to term score. I'm going to go to organization because I think that's where I entered the second score, and you have all the same that's the same screen that you're familiar with from the past. So I hope this was helpful. and certainly welcome your feedback and any suggestions you have on how to clarify things more, and certainly any questions you have. Please don't forget to access your building teacher coaches, Carolyn Babbitt, Kevin Brown, Brent Barnett, Mary Haskell, and there are a number of others around the building who are certainly very competent and skilled in using Campus, who could help you as well.